Your license is revoked, effective now.
You have not reviewed the original logs.
The ruling is final.
Your Honor, we object.
The record is clear.
The record was changed.
Enough.
We are not finished. The order is signed.
Where is the device photograph?
Irrelevant.
Then why did you hide it?
Counsel, control your client.
She is asking the question you refuse to ask.
Sit down.
Fight.
Azabam.
19 years does not excuse misconduct. Neither does authority. You endangered a patient. Open the original records. Denied.
Why?
Because they changed nothing.
Why?
Then let everyone see them. This hearing is over.
Leave quietly and this can end here.
It ended when you changed the chart. Do not answer him.
Yeah.
You have lost your career. You have not found the truth.
I need to speak. Sir, sit down. Remove him. Wait! He is not a witness. You never asked.
Identify yourself. This proceeding is closed.
Call the number.
Who are you?
The man she kept alive. This is irrelevant. Your Honor, answer the phone. Silence. You have until sunset.
The judge struck his gavel and told the black nurse her license was gone, effective immediately. Around her, hospital attorneys closed their folders as if the matter had already been settled. She had saved lives for 19 years, yet one altered chart and one powerful executive had reduced her career to a whisper. Why did the judge refuse to view the original records? Why did a silent man in the back row suddenly stand when her name was called? And what did a naval rescue, buried for 7 years, have to do with the phone call that would reach the courthouse before sunset? Stay until the end, because the person they tried to erase had once saved the one witness no one could intimidate. The bailiff stepped into the aisle before the older man reached the rail. "Sir, return to your seat." "I need 30 seconds. "You'll have none," Judge Conrad Vale said, drawing the order toward him. "This matter is concluded." Naomi Carter kept both hands flat on the defense table. Her thumbnail traced the worn rim of the silver compass pin fixed to her navy scrubs. Her attorney, Sarah Mitchell, rose. "Your Honor, the witness has not been identified. He is not on your list. He arrived after the hearing began. Then he arrived too late." Chairs creaked as the gallery turned. Miriam Cole closed her folders. Everett Sloan slipped his phone into his jacket and glanced at Naomi as if checking a locked door. The older man remained standing. "My name is Elias Grant." A murmur crossed the room. "This is not a public forum, Mr. Grant," Vale said. "No, it appears to be something smaller." The bailiff touched his elbow. Grant neither resisted nor sat. Naomi turned enough to see silver hair, a dark wool coat, shoulders held with old discipline. She had seen that posture beneath emergency lights while rain hammered a metal roof. Salt water. A failing generator. His hand crushing hers as the room went black. Vale signed the order. The pen clicked once. "Ms. Carter, your nursing license is revoked effective immediately. You are prohibited from practicing in this state pending appeal." Sarah leaned close. "Don't react. We file before noon." "He never opened the server request," Naomi whispered. "I know." "He never watched Olivia's file." "I know," Sloan murmured. "We should leave." "Not yet," Miriam said. Vale stacked the exhibits. Naomi watched him place the photograph of the infusion screen face down, its red numbers disappearing beneath his palm. "Your Honor," Grant said, "did you review the original device logs?" Vale's jaw shifted. "Remove him." Grant reached inside his coat. The bailiff stiffened, but the older man produced only a folded card. "Call the number before you escort me anywhere." The bailiff read it. His hand dropped from Grant's arm. Vale struck the gavel. The crack snapped through the chamber. Naomi's compass pin trembled beneath her thumb. "Clear the gallery." People rose amid scraping shoes and hushed questions. A clerk stared at the card, then at Vale. Sloan crossed the aisle, carrying the sharp scent of aftershave. "You could have avoided this," he told Naomi. She folded the revocation order. "By signing your report?" by understanding how institutions survive. Naomi slid the paper into her bag. Patients survive first. Sloane's smile failed. Sarah guided Naomi toward the exit. At the threshold, Grant called her name. Not Nurse Carter, not Ms. Carter, but the name he had spoken 7 years earlier through chattering teeth in a dark evacuation bay. Naomi. She stopped. A clerk hurried from behind the bench and whispered into Vale's ear. The judge looked toward Grant, then toward the folder he had refused to open. His fingers pressed the edge until the skin blanched. Grant held Naomi's gaze. They preserved the wrong copy, he said. Before she could ask who had preserved it, Vale ordered the courtroom doors locked. 3 days earlier, at 9:17 p.m., Naomi pushed through the staff entrance with rain beating on her charcoal coat. "Your coffee's getting cold," Olivia Chen called from the nurse's station. "It was cold before I bought it." Naomi hung the coat, checked the silver compass pin on her scrubs, and scanned the board. Room 412. Daniel Harper, 63. Stable, but under observation. The corridor smelled of antiseptic. Fluorescent lights hummed above a passing floor polisher. At 9:26, the elevator opened. Aisha stepped out, holding a dented thermos. "You left this. You crossed town for tea? You made me promise not to skip dinner. I'm enforcing your rules." Naomi took it, warm against her palms. "How was the interview?" Aisha tried not to smile. "I got the placement. Harbor Point. Next month." For 1 second, the alarms seemed farther away. Naomi touched her daughter's cheek. "You earned it. I thought you'd say, 'Now the real work starts.'" "That too." Aisha glanced into 412. "Maybe we'll work the same floor. Only if you find the good crackers." Olivia lifted a hand. "Top drawer. I accept bribes." Aisha laughed, then noticed an infusion unit by the wall. A red inspection sticker curled at one corner. "Should that be blinking?" The device flashed again. Naomi crossed the corridor. "It isn't assigned." She pressed the status key. The screen cleared, then returned with a red symbol beside the dosage line. Olivia lowered her voice. "Third one this week. You filed it. Twice. Maintenance reset them." Naomi read the serial number. The plastic felt warm. Aisha watched her. "Should I worry about starting here?" "Be observant," Naomi said. "That's different." At 10:03, Daniel opened his eyes as Naomi entered. "You're the one with the compass." "You remember me?" "I remember people who don't talk over me." She checked his line, tucked the blanket around his feet, and turned the cup handle toward his right hand. "Any dizziness?" "Only when administrators explain billing." His fingers trembled around the cup. Naomi compared the programmed rate with the chart. "I'm changing this unit before midnight." "Is something wrong?" "Not with you." Olivia appeared at the door. "Sloane wants replacements delayed until morning." Naomi glanced at the blinking indicator. "Tell him this one is critical." At 11:41, Everett Sloane arrived as rain streaked the windows, his tie loosened by half an inch. "You flagged another pump," he said. "It's running hot and throwing a rate warning." "We tested that batch." "Test it again." Sloane noticed Aisha beside the station. "Family members shouldn't be in clinical areas." "She's leaving." Aisha capped the thermos. "Text me after your shift. You text me when you're home." The elevator doors closed. Sloane stepped nearer. "You're creating anxiety over equipment that passed inspection." Naomi folded the serial number and put it in her pocket. "The machine doesn't care what the inspection says." At 12:08 a.m., the lights dimmed for night mode. Daniel's room settled into pale blue shadow. Naomi made another round, listening to the soft click of the infusion chamber. Behind her, the unused unit blinked red again. This time, it did not stop. At 12:14 a.m., Naomi opened the incident system beneath a humming ceiling panel. "Search Tuesday," Olivia said. Naomi entered the pump's serial number. The screen flashed white, then returned. "Record not found." "You filed one Thursday, too." She searched by unit, floor, and ticket. Nothing appeared. Across the corridor, the unused pump blinked red. Luis Moreno arrived with a tool case. At 34, he moved quickly, but spoke carefully. "You called about heat?" "And a rate warning." He pressed the casing. "Too warm. Take it out of service." "I can tag it. Sloan approves removal." Olivia folded her arms. "So the machine needs permission to be dangerous?" Luis glanced toward the camera. "I didn't say that." He opened the rear panel. Warm plastic and dust filled the air. An uneven clicking came from inside. "Search the maintenance mirror," he said. "I can't access it." "I can." At 12:31, they crowded into the supply alcove. Luis typed his credentials. 3 reports appeared under Naomi's name, marked closed. "User error." "I never closed those." "Neither did I." The door opened. Everett Sloan stood behind them. "Why is clinical staff inside maintenance records?" "Because my reports disappeared." "They were reviewed." "By whom?" "Quality control." "Name." His jaw tightened. "This is not an interrogation." Sloan pointed toward the hall. "Return to patient care. Luis, reset the unit." Luis looked at the open panel. "I can't certify it." "You can reset it." "That isn't the same thing." The fan pushed stale air between them. "We have a state inspection in 10 days, Sloan said. "Every failure code becomes a question." Naomi closed the screen. "Then answer it." His cologne cut through the smell of hot plastic. "You have a habit of frightening younger nurses." "No, the equipment does that." At 12:46, Sloan called 6 nurses to the station. "We have seen repeated misuse of the new systems," he announced. "From now on, all concerns come through me before any incident report." Naomi held Daniel's chart. "Are you ordering staff not to document a safety concern?" "I'm ordering staff to follow the chain of command." "That wasn't my question." A nurse stopped twisting her wedding ring. Another turned her screen away. Sloan smiled. "You know the difference between leadership and alarm." Naomi lifted the folded serial number. "Leadership doesn't erase timestamps." The station went still. "Give me that paper." "No." The word carried farther than the monitor tones. At 1:03, Sloan walked toward the executive elevator, his shoes striking the tile. Olivia waited until the doors closed. "I saw the same rate jump last week." "Did you document it?" "I started to." Sloan said probationary nurses don't survive reputational mistakes. Naomi turned the dented thermos lid. "Write what you saw. Keep a copy somewhere he cannot reach." Olivia swallowed. "Will you stand behind it?" Naomi looked toward Daniel's room. "I'll stand beside it." At 1:19, the terminal refreshed. The 3 reports vanished. Luis unplugged a service tablet. "I captured the cache before Sloan entered." On the pump, the red symbol flashed, paused, and returned beside a dosage number that had begun to climb. At 1:20 a.m., the dosage number jumped again. "Olivia, room 412, now." Naomi crossed the corridor before the alarm finished its first tone. Daniel's pulse was climbing. The chamber clicked too quickly. "Mr. Harper, can you hear me?" His eyes opened halfway. "You said the machine was wrong." "I'm fixing that." The programmed rate did not match the flow. Olivia reached the bed. "The chart still says stable." "The chart is behind him." Naomi pressed, "Stop." The red number froze, vanished, then returned higher. It ignored the command, Olivia whispered. Unplug it. Sloane said, unplug it. Olivia pulled the cable. The pump continued on battery power. Should I call my daughter? Not yet. Naomi closed the line by hand. One clear drop hung motionless in the chamber. Then the monitor alarm sharpened. Bring the manual kit. Call rapid response. Olivia ran. Naomi disconnected the unit, replaced the tubing, and began the backup protocol. The controls were cold. The casing stayed warm. Daniel tried to lift his head. Am I dying? No. You answered too fast. I answer fast when I'm busy. At 1:23, 2 nurses entered. One reached for the pump. Don't reset it, Naomi said. Sloane wants all units sent through central review, the charge nurse replied. This one stays sealed. You don't control evidence. I control what remains connected to my patient. Olivia returned. I called Luis. Photograph the screen. Include the time. The tablet clicked. The display read 1:24:16. Naomi held the serial label beside it. The room smelled of alcohol wipes and hot plastic. Rain ticked against the dark window. Daniel's pulse began to slow. At 1:29, Luis entered with a maintenance tag. Battery log is still active, he said. Can you preserve it? If no one touches the service port. Administration will want it downstairs. Luis fastened the tag through the handle. Then administration can sign for it. Daniel turned toward Naomi. Is this normal? No. At 1:34, his readings settled. The alarm stopped. A crescent from the manual control had pressed into Naomi's palm. Olivia lowered the tablet. I saved the photo to the patient record. Save another copy. That violates policy. So did deleting 3 reports. Olivia looked at the ceiling camera, then sent the image to her encrypted training account. The elevator bell sounded. Sloane entered with 2 security officers. What happened? The device accelerated beyond its setting, Naomi said. We stabilized the patient. Sloane studied Daniel's monitor, not Daniel. Who authorized manual override? I did. Then your intervention caused the variance. Olivia stared at him. The number changed before she touched it. Sloane turned. Be certain before you make that statement. I'm certain. His gaze moved to the red tag and covered service port. Take the unit downstairs. Luis did not move. Naomi folded the rhythm strip and placed it beside the serial number in her pocket. No one moves it until the original log is copied. Sloane's face stayed calm, but the vein beside his temple pulsed once. Behind him, one security officer quietly looked at the clock. At 6:42 a.m., the 4th floor doors locked with a magnetic click. A notice appeared on the glass. Temporary clinical review. Staff access by authorization only. Naomi stood at the nurse's station while dawn grayed the windows. Daniel was stable. The sealed pump was gone. Who moved it? Luis lowered his voice. Security took it at 4:10. Sloane signed. You told them not to touch the port. Twice. Olivia bent a paper cup lid. The photo is safe. For now, Naomi said. Everett Sloane entered with Miriam Cole and a folder. Conference room, just you. Inside, air rattled from a vent. Sloane turned the folder toward her. Incident summary. Unauthorized manual intervention. You disconnected a functioning device, he said. It accelerated beyond its programmed rate. The log shows no malfunction. Then show me the original. Miriam said, This is not a discovery proceeding. Naomi read, Delayed escalation, failure to follow command, documentation irregularity. You wrote this before the review. We wrote what the record supports. Sloane said. No. You wrote what protects the hospital. He slid over a pen. It stopped against her wrist. Sign that you received the findings. If I sign, we recommend retraining instead of suspension. And if I don't? The licensing board receives the report, Miriam said. Naomi closed the folder. Send them the server log, too. Sloane's smile thinned. You are making this harder than necessary. For whom? At 7:18, her access card flashed red. Thomas Blake, the security supervisor, approached with 2 officers. Ms. Carter, your access is suspended. I need my coat and bag. We'll escort you. Nurses gathered, but left space around her. Someone silenced an alarm. Another stared at the floor. Olivia stepped forward. She saved that patient. Sloane appeared behind security. Return to your assignment. She did. Now. Olivia's mouth closed. Her eyes did not. In the locker room, Naomi took her damp charcoal coat and packed the dented thermos, spare shoes, and Aisha's volunteer photo. Thomas pointed to her badge. I need that. Naomi unclipped it herself. At 7:31, the elevator opened into the lobby. Visitors turned as the officers emerged beside her. Steam hissed from the coffee kiosk. Wet umbrellas dripped onto tile. Aisha hurried through the revolving door. Mom! Naomi stopped. What are they doing? An administrative review. Why is security here? No one answered. Naomi placed the badge in Thomas's palm. The plastic card struck the reception counter, then swung from its cord, tapping the laminate again and again. A clerk looked away. 2 nurses lowered their phones. Aisha read the notice attached to Naomi's bag. You told me to apply here. I still meant it. They're walking you out like you hurt someone. Naomi buttoned her coat over the silver compass pin. Daniel is alive. Sloane descended the stairs. If you leave quietly, he said, we may contain this. The badge kept swaying. You already decided what happened. We decided what can be proven. The elevator opened. Olivia stepped out, phone against her chest. No, she said. You decided what could disappear. Every face in the lobby turned toward her. At 9:08 a.m., Lillian Price placed 3 pens in a perfect row. State your full name. Naomi Elise Carter. The licensing office was colder than the hospital lobby. A vent breathed against Naomi's neck. Lillian wore a gray suit and checked her watch without moving her head. This is the device log provided by Harbor Point. Naomi read the first page. The pump was listed as functioning normally. Her intervention appeared at 1:38 a.m. That time is wrong. According to whom? The room clock, the monitor, and the photograph. Lillian slid forward another sheet. The record shows no activity between 1:20 and 1:34. 14 minutes vanished. The system recorded no event. That is not the same sentence. One pen had shifted. Lillian straightened it. Did you disconnect the device without authorization? I stopped an unsafe infusion. Yes or no? Yes. And did you bypass command? I called rapid response, maintenance, and stabilized the patient. That wasn't my question. It should have been. At 9:26, Sarah Mitchell entered with a folder. We requested the original server export, she said, not a hospital summary. The board accepts certified submissions. Certified by the executive named in the complaint. This is an intake interview. Then intake the missing evidence. Sarah placed Olivia's photograph on the table. The red display showed 1/24/16. Lillian glanced at it. This was not submitted through the hospital portal. Because the hospital removed her access, Sarah said. Chain of custody matters. So does time. Lillian's thumb rested on the photograph. At 9:41, Luis Moreno arrived with his service tablet. I was told I could make a technical statement. You were not scheduled. I brought cached maintenance entries. That material may be proprietary. It may show why your printout is wrong. He turned the summary sideways and pointed to the footer. This export is stamped Eastern Time, but the server stores events in Coordinated Universal Time until conversion. Lillian narrowed her eyes. Explain. They converted one column and not the other. The 14-minute gap is a mismatch. Sarah leaned forward. Can you recover the sequence? If the backup still exists. Naomi said, It existed when I left. Luis wiped the tablet screen. Sloan moved the device before dawn. If maintenance accessed it, the local buffer may have rolled over. Lillian closed the folder. We will rely on the certified hospital record until authenticated data arrives. You know the times conflict, Naomi said. I know you disagree. No, you know. The vent clicked off. The room felt smaller. Lillian gathered the photograph, Luis's note, and the printout. She placed Naomi's evidence beneath the hospital packet, then locked both inside a blue folder. An emergency suspension hearing has been requested for tomorrow morning. Sarah stood. On what basis? Risk to public safety. Requested by whom? Lillian aligned the pens again. Harbor Point Medical Center. At the door, Luis's tablet vibrated. The backup server rejected my credentials. Naomi turned. Luis lowered his voice. Someone is already inside it. At 8:43 a.m., Sarah pushed through the courthouse doors with rain darkening her coat. They moved the hearing up, 9:15. Naomi checked the clock above security. They told us 10. They told the board 9. Luis raised his tablet. My affidavit is ready. Sarah took it. Keep the original. The hearing room smelled of dust, damp wool, and burnt coffee. Judge Conrad Vale waited. Everett Sloan and Miriam Cole were arranging binders. Vale looked at the wall clock. We begin now. Sarah remained standing. We received notice less than 24 hours ago. You are present. We are not prepared because the hospital withheld the original server logs. Miriam opened a blue folder. The certified record is complete. It contains a 14-minute gap. Vale tapped his pen. Address evidence when it is admitted. At 9:19, Miriam called Sloan. Did Ms. Carter follow protocol? No. She disconnected equipment, bypassed command, and created unnecessary risk. Naomi watched his left hand remain flat over a folder marked Technical Review. Sarah rose. Did you move the device before review was complete? Security secured it. That wasn't my question. Vale glanced at the clock. Move on. Sarah placed Olivia's photograph on the rail. This shows the warning at 1:24 a.m. Miriam stood. Unauthenticated. The nurse who took it is outside. She was not listed. We learned of this hearing yesterday. Vale slid the photograph back. Excluded. The paper whispered across the wood. At 9:47, Luis approached the witness chair. Miriam objected. No disclosed expert report. He maintains the hospital's devices, Sarah said. He is qualified to read a timestamp. The minute hand clicked forward. Excluded, Vale said. Luis stayed still. The server converted one column incorrectly. Mr. Moreno, leave the well. If you compare. Now. Luis returned to the gallery. His fingers could not close the top button of his coat. Sarah opened Naomi's file. 19 years without discipline. Advanced critical care certification. Prior service in naval medical evacuation. Vale leaned back. Past praise does not answer present conduct. It explains her training with equipment failure. Irrelevant. Naomi spoke for the first time. The patient's monitor and the pump disagreed. I chose the patient. Vale's gaze settled on her silver compass pin. You chose to ignore authority. I chose the reading changing in front of me. Sloane shifted in his chair. Sarah said, "We request a continuance until the original backup is preserved." Denied. Permit the board investigator to explain the conflicting times. Lillian Price sat behind Miriam, hands folded over the blue folder. One pen rested crooked in her pocket. Vale asked, "Does the state support suspension?" Lillian looked at Naomi, then at Sloane. "The certified record supports emergency action." The clock clicked again. Naomi's thumb found the worn edge of the compass. Cold metal pressed into her skin. Sarah whispered, "I can appeal whatever he does." Across the aisle, Miriam began closing an unused binder. Vale lifted the order from beneath his blotter. It had already been signed. "Ms. Carter," he said, "stand for the ruling." The elevator doors closed on the courthouse lobby at 10:12 a.m. Sarah held the revocation order against her chest. "I'll file the appeal before noon." Naomi watched the floor numbers descend. He signed it before Louise spoke. "I know." He had already decided. The elevator stopped with a jolt. Cold air followed them through the parking garage, carrying rain and engine oil. Naomi's badge was gone, but the empty holder still hung from the lanyard in her bag. At home, Aisha stood at the kitchen counter with her laptop open. "You saw it?" Naomi asked. "It's already online." The state registry showed her name above emergency revocation. Below it, a paragraph described an unsafe intervention and failure to follow command. Aisha turned the screen. "They made it sound like you walked away from him." "Daniel was stable when I left." "That isn't what people will read." "No." Aisha clicked another tab. Her clinical placement form filled the screen. "What are you doing?" "Backing out." "Close it." "I don't want to train there." "You wanted this for 2 years." "I wanted to work beside you." Naomi set the dented thermos in the sink. Metal struck porcelain with a hollow ring. "You still can." "Not if they can erase 19 years in one morning." Her cursor hovered over Withdraw Application. Naomi reached across the table, then stopped. "Don't make my decision for me." "This isn't your decision. It becomes mine if you surrender because they punished me." Aisha's eyes filled, but her voice stayed hard. "You told the truth. Look what it bought you." She clicked. A confirmation box appeared. Neither moved. At 12:40, Ruth Carter arrived with a grocery bag and a cardigan buttoned wrong at the neck. At 69, she walked slowly, but noticed everything. "I brought soup," she said, "and no advice." Aisha gave a broken laugh. Ruth placed 3 bowls on the counter. "That promise lasts until someone asks." No one ate. The refrigerator hummed. Rain tapped the window. Sarah called at 1:06. "The appeal is filed. I also requested preservation of the hospital's digital records." "Will they grant it?" "They may, but the revocation stays visible." "For how long?" Sarah did not answer at once. This could take months. After the call, Naomi carried her folded scrubs to the kitchen table. The empty badge holder lay on top. She slid one finger inside it, as if the card might still be there. Aisha sat across from her. "Say something." Naomi unclipped the silver compass pin. For the first time in 19 years, the fabric beneath it looked bare. Ruth stopped drying a bowl. Naomi turned the pin over. A thin scratch crossed the back, left by a stretcher during a storm evacuation 7 years earlier. She remembered emergency lights failing, seawater under her shoes, and a man gripping her wrist while she counted his breaths. "You kept that?" Ruth asked. "It reminded me where to look when everything else failed." "Then why take it off?" Naomi held the pin above the table. Her fingers trembled once. Aisha's laptop chimed. The registry page had been shared by a veterans medical network. Naomi fastened the compass back onto her scrubs. On the screen, beside her name, the view count began climbing. At 2:18 p.m., the view count crossed 10,000. 2 counties away, Helen Brooks, his 50-year-old aide, turned her laptop toward the man at the window. "Admiral, you need to see this." Elias Grant did not turn immediately. Rain striped the glass, and the grandfather clock marked each second with a dry click. "What is it?" "An emergency license revocation." "Whose?" Helen enlarged the registry page. "Naomi Carter." Grant faced the screen. He read without touching the desk, then rested his hand beside her name. "What does it say she did?" "Unsafe intervention. Failure to follow command. Risk to a patient." "No." Helen studied him. "You know her?" "She kept me alive when a generator failed off Cape Meridian." He opened a drawer and removed a weathered envelope. Inside was a photograph of a dark evacuation bay, 1 emergency lamp, and a black nurse bent over a stretcher. "That is her?" "That is the only person in the room who understood the monitor was wrong. 7 years earlier, seawater crossed the floor as someone shouted that transport was delayed." "Stay with me," Naomi had said. "My chest? I know. Breathe when I tell you." The lights died. Someone ordered her to move to another casualty. "She goes first," Grant had said. Naomi tightened the blanket around him. "No one goes first. We move in sequence." Her silver compass pin caught the backup light when she reached for the manual kit. Grant placed the photograph over the registry printout. "Call the hospital." Helen hesitated. "To intervene?" "To preserve evidence. You could call the governor's office. That would make this about influence." "What should it be about? The record?" At 2:41, Helen called Harbor Point's legal office. "We request immediate preservation of all device logs, backups, access records, security footage, and communications related to Naomi Carter." The lawyer paused. "On what authority?" "None yet. Consider this notice that destruction may become relevant to federal review." "We have no federal matter." Grant leaned toward the phone. "Then preservation should not trouble you." The line went quiet. "We will refer this to counsel." Do that before anyone touches the backup. At 3:06, Grant called a former naval medical inspector. Can an infusion device increase after a stop command? If the control board fails, can the log be altered? The local buffer can be overwritten. The remote server is harder. How hard? Depends who has access. Grant looked at Helen. Get this morning's docket and audio. And if they delay, we preserve. At 3:22, Naomi's phone rang while she stood at the kitchen sink. Aisha looked up. Unknown number, Naomi answered. Ms. Carter, Helen said. Admiral Grant saw the registry. Naomi gripped the cold counter. Is he all right? He's asking about you. That wasn't my question. Helen glanced toward Grant. He nodded once. He is well. He will not ask anyone to restore your license as a favor. Naomi closed her eyes. Good. He intends to find the original record. Across town, a hospital server displayed a new legal hold request. Before the status changed to active, an administrator logged in under Everett Sloan's credentials. At 3:31 p.m., the hospital server changed from pending to legal hold. Luis Moreno saw the status appear on his tablet and stood so quickly his chair struck a cabinet. Who filed it? Olivia asked. Federal Preservation Channel. Can Sloan cancel it? Not without leaving a record. The maintenance office smelled of dust and machine oil. Rain rattled the window. Luis opened the backup console, entered a recovery key, and waited. A green line appeared beneath the 14 missing minutes. Olivia leaned closer. That's 121. And there's the rate increase. 122, 123, 124. The stop command. Registered. Rejected by the control board. Then manual disconnection. Exactly what Naomi said. He copied the sequence to an encrypted drive and printed it. The paper emerged warm, carrying the smell of toner. At 3:38, the office lock clicked. Everett Sloan entered. "What are you doing?" "Responding to the hold," Luis said. "You are not authorized to export data. The order says preserve and disclose. It says preserve." Olivia slipped her phone into her pocket. Sloan noticed. "Give me that." "No." His voice softened. "You are still on probation." "I was also in room 412. You saw confusion. I saw the number rise before Naomi touched the pump." Sloan stepped between her and the door. "What you think you saw could end several careers." "One already ended." Luis raised the printed log. "The server confirms her timeline." Sloan stared at the green entries. For half a second, his expression emptied. "Those records require validation." "Then validate them. Shut down the console. The hold forbids alteration." Sloan reached for the keyboard. Luis closed the cover first. At 3:46, Raphael Brooks arrived with 2 investigators. At 51, he had close-cropped gray hair and a patient manner. "Step away from the terminal, Mr. Sloan. This is a private hospital system. It is now preserved evidence. On whose complaint? On the data." Raphael photographed the screen, access panel, and green backup line. Then he asked Luis to explain every timestamp from 120 to 134. At Naomi's kitchen table, Sarah answered the video call. "We have the original sequence," Raphael said. Aisha stopped beside Naomi's chair. "Does it show the increase?" Naomi asked. "Yes." "The rejected stop command?" "Yes." "And the manual stabilization?" "To the second." Aisha covered her mouth. Naomi pressed her thumb against the compass pin. Sarah said, "Send the authenticated copy to the board." "I'm sending it to everyone who signed the order." At 4:12, Olivia placed her phone on the maintenance desk. "There's more." She played a recording made outside Sloan's office at 5:02 that morning. His voice came through beneath the hum of an ice machine. "Replace the event times with operator error. I need the report clean before the board opens." A second voice answered, lower and older. "The judge will move if the packet is complete." Raphael stopped the audio. "Who is that?" Olivia shook her head. "I never saw him." Luis enlarged the access log. One account had entered the server before dawn, not from the hospital, but from an address assigned to the courthouse. At 8:06 a.m., Helena Ward placed the courthouse access log. At 55, the Ethics Commission counsel wore her silver hair. "This address entered Harbor Point's server at 4:37 yesterday morning," Raphael said. "Assigned to whom?" "The judge's chambers." Conrad Vale's clerk sat rigid across the table. "Who used the terminal?" Helena asked. "Judge Vale told me to open a link from Mr. Sloan." "Did you enter credentials?" "No." The page already knew the account. Rain tapped the windows. "Did Vale speak with Sloan before the hearing?" The clerk swallowed. "Twice." At 8:29, Lillian Price entered with the blue folder. 3 pens were clipped to her pocket, one pointing down. Sarah met her near the door. "You had the timestamp conflict." "I had an unauthenticated discrepancy." "You had enough to delay the order." Lillian looked at Naomi. "My supervisor wanted a recommendation. My promotion review was at noon." That is not an excuse. No, Naomi replied. It is the reason you chose. Helena pulled out a chair. Sit. Lillian placed the folder on the table, but kept both hands over it. Did you disclose the conflicting export? Helena asked. I put it beneath the certified packet. Did you call attention to it? No. Why? Sloan said delay would make the board look weak. Vale called my director and said the case needed a decisive record. Lillian's fingers loosened. I was told hesitation would be remembered. She pushed the folder to Raphael. The pen slipped from her pocket and landed crooked beside it. She did not straighten them. Inside were Naomi's photograph, Luis's note, and a memorandum stamped before the hearing. The subject read, Emergency Outcome Language. Sarah read the first paragraph. They drafted the revocation in advance. Raphael asked, Who sent it? Vale's chambers. At 9:03, Helena opened another file. These payments moved from Harbor Point's foundation to the Meridian Institute. Vale lectures there? Sarah asked. 6 private seminars, $38,000. Naomi looked toward Sloan. He sat behind Miriam Cole, pinching his cuff. Miriam rose. That does not prove a direct payment. No, Helena said. It proves a relationship the judge failed to disclose. At 9:18, an investigator sealed Sloan's phone in a clear pouch. The screen lit with a message from Conrad Fye. Delete our call notes. Use the official file only. The room seemed to shrink around the words. Lillian covered her mouth. Vale's clerk stared at the floor. Naomi touched the silver compass once, then lowered her hand. Helena read the message aloud. The commission is opening a formal inquiry. The board will be told that its order may have been obtained through undisclosed contact and suppressed evidence. Sarah turned to Naomi. We can request an immediate rehearing. Open hearing, Naomi said. Sloan looked at her. You want an audience? I want a record no one can close. At 9:41, Helena's assistant entered with a sealed witness confirmation. Helena read the name. Your witness will testify in person. The elevator opened beyond the conference room. Measured footsteps crossed the marble corridor, and every conversation stopped before Elias Grant reached the door. At 10:02 a.m., the hearing room doors opened, and Elias Grant entered without uniform or escort. Conrad Vale was absent. Helena Ward sat beside a substitute judge. State your name and occupation, Sarah said. Elias Grant, retired Admiral, United States Navy. A murmur crossed the gallery. Naomi kept her thumb on the silver compass. Do you know Miss Carter? She was the evacuation nurse who kept me alive during Hurricane Mercer 7 years ago. Miriam Cole rose. Objection. Character evidence. Grant faced the judge. My gratitude is not evidence. Her training record is. He opened a weathered folder. The Naval Review found a control board failure in an infusion unit. Ms. Carter saw the mismatch between the programmed rate and patient monitor, disconnected the device, and maintained manual support until transport arrived. A photograph filled the screen. Emergency light, seawater on the floor, Naomi's silhouette over a stretcher. Is that why you intervened? Sarah asked. No. Her public record condemned the same conduct for which the Navy commended her. Sloane's chair creaked. Raphael Brooks approached with the preserved server export. The backup confirms a rate increase at 122, a rejected stop command at 123, and manual disconnection at 124. The hospital summary omitted all three. The judge looked at Miriam. Do you dispute authentication? We request time to examine methodology. You had the records first. Silence settled beneath the fluorescent hum. At 10:31, Daniel Harper appeared on a monitor. "What do you remember?" Sarah asked. "Machines making noise. People talking about procedure. Nurse Carter looking at me." "Did she explain?" "She said, 'The machine is wrong. I'm staying.'" Miriam stood. "You were medicated. Your memory may be incomplete." Daniel adjusted the blanket. "I may not remember every number. I remember who watched my face and who watched the paperwork." Olivia gripped her phone. Louise stared at the floor. Lillian Price sat behind counsel with 3 pens loose in her lap. The judge replayed Olivia's photograph, then the audio from Sloane's office. "Replace the event times with operator error." Sloane leaned toward Miriam. "That recording lacks context." Naomi looked at him. "Then give it context." His mouth opened, but Helena placed Conrad Vale's message on the screen. "Delete our call notes." "Mr. Sloane, you will not address this tribunal again without counsel." Grant stepped down. As he passed Naomi, he neither saluted nor touched her. "You were right about the monitor," he said. Naomi released the compass. A pale crescent remained in her palm. At 11:07, the substitute judge vacated the revocation and ordered Naomi's license restored before the registry closed. Behind her, Aisha made one sound, half breath and half sob. Sarah squeezed Naomi's wrist. "You can work again." Naomi looked at Daniel, then at Olivia and Louise. "Not until the record says why." The judge nodded to the clerk. "Then we finish the record." Reporters crowded the courthouse steps, but Naomi stayed seated until the restored license notice appeared on the clerk's screen. Only then did she lift her hand from the compass, and the metal lay still. At 11:26 a.m., the restored license notice appeared on the public registry. "Status: active," Sarah said. "Disciplinary entry removed." Aisha gripped Naomi's chair. "It's really gone?" "The line is gone," Naomi said. "What happened isn't." Margaret Hall, 61 chair of Harbor Point's board, entered with a red folder. "Ms. Carter, Everett Sloane is on immediate leave." Sloane rose. "You cannot announce that here. Your access was disabled 6 minutes ago." He checked his phone. No service account glowed on the screen. The substitute judge called the room to order. "The remaining record concerns falsified evidence." Helena Ward placed the server export beside Vale's message. Mr. Sloane approved a report omitting the device failure, then contacted Judge Vale before the hearing. "I protected the hospital from an unverified claim," Sloane said. Louise stood. "You ordered me to reset the pump." "You misunderstood." Olivia raised her phone. "Your exact words are recorded." The air system clicked off. Sloane's cuff button tapped the table. Margaret opened the folder. "We found 5 earlier device complaints closed as user error without technical review." "Were patients harmed?" the judge asked. Raphael Brooks answered. "Outcomes are under review. The concealment is established." Sloane folded his arms. One frightened nurse could have damaged public trust. Naomi's voice stayed level. "You damaged it when you changed the record." At 12:03 p.m., Margaret read the board's resolution. Sloane was removed as chief clinical director pending termination. Harbor Point would refer the altered records to prosecutors and surrender 3 years of equipment complaints. Miriam closed her binder. "Mr. Sloane resigns effective immediately." "I did not authorize that." "You did when you sent the message." Sloane gathered his papers twice because his fingers kept missing the edges. At 12:21, Helena received the Ethics Commission's order. "Conrad Vale is suspended from judicial duties. He may not access files or contact witnesses." Vale appeared behind her in shirt sleeves, his robe over one arm. "This is political theater." Helena held out a plain envelope. "Your chamber emblem." Vale removed the metal seal from his keyring. His thumb rested on its edge before he dropped it inside. The sound was softer than the gavel. Lillian Price approached Naomi near the aisle. I told myself I was preserving my career. You were preserving their decision. I know. Then tell the investigators everything. Lillian handed Raphael the blue folder. The 3 pens in her pocket sat crooked. Outside, reporters called Naomi's name. Aisha moved closer, but Naomi stopped beside Olivia and Luis. You both spoke when it cost something, she said. Olivia shook her head. Too late. Not for Daniel. At 1:04 p.m., Margaret offered reinstatement, back pay, and a private settlement conference. Naomi looked through the courthouse doors at cameras waiting in the rain. I'll discuss compensation, she said. But first I want the rules that made this possible put on the table. Margaret closed the folder. What rules? Naomi touched the compass beneath her coat. All of them. At 8 o'clock the next morning, Naomi placed a yellow legal pad in the center of Harbor Point's boardroom. Margaret Hall faced the executives. We can discuss reinstatement and back pay. Naomi removed her coat. The silver compass caught the window light. Those are remedies for me, she said. I asked about everyone after me. Sarah opened Naomi's proposal. Independent storage of device logs, automatic preservation after safety complaints, protection from retaliation, clinical review before an emergency license suspension. A board member adjusted his glasses. That transfers authority outside the hospital. That is the point. Who sits on this council? Margaret asked. Nurses, technicians, a patient representative, one administrator without voting control. At 8:37, Raphael Brooks appeared by video. The state can retain original data for 7 years, he said. Whistleblower protection needs approval. How long? Olivia asked. Months. Margaret glanced toward the cameras outside. They will resist. Then put their objections in writing, Naomi said. At 9:12, Lillian entered with the blue folder. Her 3 pens sat unevenly in her pocket. I submitted a declaration. The emergency process let one certified packet outweigh conflicting evidence. A hospital lawyer leaned forward. Are you admitting misconduct? I am describing it. Lillian set down the folder. I already lost the reason I wanted it. By noon, the board approved external backups, anonymous reporting, an independent counsel, and a rule barring accused executives from controlling evidence. Margaret signed last. This changes how we operate. It changes who gets heard, Naomi replied. At 2:20 p.m., Helena Ward called. The Ethics Commission adopted an emergency rule. Administrative judges must disclose financial ties before accepting license cases. Temporary? Sarah asked. Effective now. Permanent language goes to hearing next month. Naomi folded Vale's ruling, stamped vacated, and put it away. After sunset, she found Aisha at the kitchen table. Her withdrawn application lay under one palm, wrinkled across the middle. I printed another copy, Aisha said. You do not owe me a decision tonight. I know. Aisha smoothed the form with the heel of her hand. The paper crackled. Will Harbor Point really be different? Not because they signed a document. Then why go back? Because someone has to notice when it is ignored. Aisha crossed out the withdrawal date and wrote October 23rd, 2026 beside it. Can trainees attend the new council? If they are willing to speak. What if my voice shakes? Naomi turned the form toward the signature line. Let it shake. Say it anyway. At the first council meeting, every chair was filled. Daniel joined by video. Luis placed the server log on the screen. Olivia sat beside 2 nurses who had never filed a complaint. Margaret handed Naomi the agenda. "You should open." Beyond the glass, a replacement pump stood tagged for review, its red indicator dark. Naomi set the silver compass on the table. "First item," she said. "No record belongs to the person with the highest title." Aisha entered and took a seat beside her. For the first time, no one asked who had authorized it. 6 months later, at 11:47 p.m., Naomi stepped out of the elevator in navy scrubs beneath her charcoal coat. Her badge read Director of Clinical Safety, but she still worked one night shift each week. Olivia met her at the 4th floor station. "Directors are allowed to sleep." "Then don't tell Margaret." Aisha emerged from room 412 carrying a folded blanket, her trainee badge hanging crooked. "You missed a corner," Naomi said. "I left it for you." The replacement infusion pump beside the bed showed a steady green line. A red tag hung from its handle until Luis finished a second verification. "No single signature clears a device anymore," he said. Olivia glanced at him. "You sound disappointed." They watched until the indicator went dark. At 12:30, the Independent Safety Council released its first public report. 43 complaints once labeled user error had been reopened. 9 devices were removed, and every original log now copied automatically to an outside archive. Olivia had become the elected nursing representative. She still spoke quickly when the room grew hostile, but she no longer lowered her voice. Lillian Price joined by video from the state whistleblower program. "I completed my testimony," she said. "The board reduced my rank and placed me under supervision." Lillian continued, "I accepted it. I also drafted the rule requiring investigators to disclose conflicting evidence before emergency action." Naomi turned one page. "Make sure it survives the next promotion cycle." Lillian nodded. The 3 pens on her desk lay in no particular order. Conrad Vale had resigned before the removal hearing and lost eligibility for future administrative appointments. Everett Sloan remained barred from clinical leadership while prosecutors reviewed the altered records. Naomi read both updates without lingering. At 2:06 a.m., Daniel Harper arrived with his daughter and a small wooden box. "Visitors' hours ended 2 hours ago," Naomi said. "I heard the director bends rules." "Wrong director." Inside the box was a hand-carved stand shaped like a wave. "For the compass," he said, "so it doesn't have to hold everything by itself." Naomi ran her thumb over the smooth wood. Daniel looked toward Aisha. "Your mother still watches people instead of paperwork?" "She makes us do both. Terrifying woman." "Quiet," Naomi said. "You'll wake the administrators." Before dawn, Elias Grant came alone, carrying the storm photograph in a plain envelope. "I kept this longer than I should have." The picture showed seawater on the floor, one emergency lamp, and Naomi bent over his stretcher. The compass was only a pale spark near her shoulder. "You didn't owe me a rescue," Grant said. "You were my patient." That answer ended a judge's career. No, his choices did. Grant accepted that with a small nod. At 5:52, Aisha completed her first full shift. She stood at the window, rubbing the mark left by her badge clip. "Do you ever stop expecting the floor to move?" Naomi placed the photograph beside her new badge, then set the compass on Daniel's wooden stand. "Not completely. Is that bad?" "It keeps me checking." Outside, the city lights formed a steady line along the dark water. Naomi switched off the break room lamp. Behind her, the compass needle settled beside the badge and did not tremble. The night held still. Have you ever seen someone's career, reputation, or future threatened because a powerful institution protected itself instead of the truth? Share what happened in the comments, especially if one quiet witness or preserved record changed the outcome. Pass this story to someone who believes dignity should never depend on rank, influence, or job title. Stories like Naomi's matter because fairness often begins when one person refuses to look away and another decides to speak before the evidence disappears. Subscribe for more stories about justice, quiet resilience, accountability, and the lasting changes that ordinary people can force inside powerful systems. Thank you for staying through Naomi's longest night, and for remembering that a calm voice can still leave a permanent record.